In the 13th century, the world changed forever. From the windswept steppes of Mongolia, a storm of horsemen erupted, swift, silent, unstoppable. Within decades, their banners stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the banks of the Danube River. This was the Mongol Empire, the largest contiguous empire in human history. Yet for centuries, no one truly knew who these people were. Even their own chronicle, The Secret History of the Mongols, written in the 1200s, glorified Genghis Khan, born Temujin in 1162, and his sons Jochi, Chagatai, Ogadai, and Tolui. It celebrated his rise under the eternal blue sky, Tengri. But it left a haunting silence about the deeper roots of the Mongolic peoples. Where had they come from before the year 1206, when Temujin was first proclaimed Great Khan at the fateful Kurultai? Were they one nation or something far more complex? Historians once believed the Mongols appeared suddenly, an isolated tribe that united the steppes by luck, violence, and ambition. But today, science is tearing down that myth. Archaeologists sift through the ashes of Karakoram, the 13th century imperial capital, and uncover an imperial valley of workshops, trade districts, and a Muslim cemetery, proof of a sophisticated, multi-ethnic society. At Tavan Tolgoi, graves of Mongol nobles reveal gold falcon rings, the sacred emblem of the Kiat Borjigin clan, alongside horses buried with their masters. Every artifact whispers that these nomads were far from simple raiders. Yet the most transformative revelations come from ancient DNA, from teeth pulled from windswept kurgans to bones lying beneath Orkhon Valley soil. Scientists are extracting fragments of genomes that predate the empire by thousands of years. Combined with high-resolution tree-ring climate records, these genetic clues are building a radical new picture of Mongol origins, one of constant migration, of alliances and absorptions, of forgotten people whose bloodlines live on in the warriors of Genghis Khan. Because the Mongols were never one people. They were a living mosaic of tribes, forged across millennia, bound by survival, conquest, and the sky itself. And the first evidence of that hidden ancestry lies in a single genetic signal, buried in the steppe for 13,000 years. This is where the trail begins. Beneath the frozen winds of the Mongolian plateau, in ancient kurgans and river valley graves, scientists have uncovered the oldest whispers of the Mongols' true identity. Modern genetics traces the first root of their bloodline to 13,000 BCE. The earliest echo comes from the Amur 13K people, hunter-gatherers who roamed the forests and rivers of Northeast Asia during the last ice age. Far to the north, in a shadowed stone chamber called Devil's Gate Cave, its remains dating to 7,000 BCE, archaeologists unearthed the same genetic signal. These were the ancient Northeast Asians, the foundation of the Mongolic genome. They lived and died on the edge of survival, long before history, long before empires, yet their blood would flow into the veins of Genghis Khan's riders. But the Mongols were never the children of a single people. Genetic evidence reveals a threefold origin, a living map of migrations across the steppe. Around 3000 BCE, Yellow River farmers from northern China moved into the grasslands, bringing with them early millet agriculture and new lineages. By 2500 BCE, the western steppe herders, ancestors of the Sarmatians and Andronovo cultures, pushed eastward from modern Kazakhstan and the Volga-Ural region, carrying the legacy of the Indo-European steppe. The Mongolic peoples became the crossroad of all three: hunter, farmer, herder, bound by wind, grass, and survival. Picture a single warrior of 1206. His blood is a living archive. Ancient Northeast Asian from 13,000 BCE, Yellow River farmer from 3000 BCE, Western steppe herder from 2500 BCE. 3 continents whisper through his veins. 1,000 forgotten ancestors ride with him. But one part of this bloodline would shape history more than any other. A lineage that tells the story of conquest, power, and empire. A story written only by men. Across the endless grasslands, history itself carries a male echo. Every empire leaves footprints in stone, but the Mongols left their legacy in blood, traced not in families, but in the Y chromosomes of men. Genetic studies of modern Mongolic populations reveal a striking pattern. Nearly 59% of their paternal lineages belong to a single branch, CM217, the so-called Mongolic signature. It stretches from Siberia to Korea, from Mongolia to Central Asia, whispering of a past where a few victorious clans reshaped the steppe. These were the fathers of conquest, men whose survival meant the disappearance of others. History confirms the pattern. During the 6th to 9th centuries CE, when the Turkic Khaganate and later the Uyghur Khaganate ruled these lands, new lineages emerged, R1b and J, Western Eurasian markers that rode east with warriors, merchants, and perhaps exiled princes from the far steppe. Then came the 13th century, and with it, the explosion of C2b, the genetic shadow of Mongol imperial expansion. It rose like a star in the darkness, spreading across Eurasia as cities fell and new dynasties were born. Scientists call it the star cluster phenomenon, a Y chromosome that multiplies with unnatural speed. And at the center of that cluster is the legend of Genghis Khan. Through war, marriage alliances, and the quiet violence of assimilation, his lineage alone may have seeded the world with over 16 million men, nearly 8% of all males across the lands once ruled by the Great Khan, an empire of blood echoing through time. But there is a darker side to this legacy. For every lineage that thrived, countless others vanished, local men erased from history, their bloodlines absorbed or extinguished. The Mongol steppe was not a place of equality. It was a crucible where the sword decided which fathers would be remembered and which would become ghosts. Yet for all their power, the men of the Mongol world did not write the whole story. Because the mothers of the steppe, they tell a story that defies the sword. If the fathers of Mongolia wrote their legacy in conquest, the mothers left a riddle, a quiet genetic story that rewrites our understanding of the empire. Unlike the Y chromosome of men, passed down through victory and bloodshed, a mother's mark lives in mitochondrial DNA, whispered from mother to child, untouched by the ambitions of kings. Excavations across Mongolia, Orkhon Valley, Tavan Tolgoi, and the banks of the Tul River reveal a steppe once alive with diversity. 54% of maternal lineages in ancient Mongolia were East Eurasian, stretching to the Amur and Korean peninsula. But remarkably, 14% were West Eurasian, from regions as far as the Caspian steppe and even the distant Pontic-Caspian plains. In the centuries before the Mongol Empire, the steppe was a crossroads of mothers, carrying the blood of two worlds into the same cradle. Then, history changed them forever. By the time of modern Mongolia, 82% of maternal lineages are purely East Asian. The Western mothers, the women whose children once carried the blood of Europe into the heart of Asia, nearly vanished. Entire lineages erased, as if the empire itself devoured its mothers. The shift is written in the age of Pax Mongolica, 1206 to 1368 CE. Genghis Khan's armies were overwhelmingly male. As they conquered northern China, Central Asia, and the Silk Road cities, they brought home Han, Khitan, and East Asian women, weaving them into the Borjigin bloodline. Meanwhile, the older maternal lines of the multi-ethnic steppe, the women from the western fringes, were gradually absorbed, replaced, and forgotten. But the tombs remember them. At Tavan Tolgoi, 1190 to 1230 CE, archaeologists unearthed noble women buried with gold falcon rings, the emblem of the Kiat-Borjigin clan. One lay with a golden crown, silk robes, and a bronze mirror, reflecting a world where the steppes' daughters connected empires. These graves are the last whispers of a vanished maternal legacy, a lineage erased by the march of history. And yet this story of lost mothers is only the beginning. Because long before Genghis, long before the Mongols had a name, another empire ruled these lands, its blood flowing silently through time. Its origins are stranger than legend. That empire was the Xiongnu, the first great power of the Mongolian steppe, an empire that terrified China, baffled historians, and carried bloodlines that would ripple across Eurasia. Around 209 BCE, under the rule of the enigmatic Modu Chanyu, scattered nomadic tribes united into a single force. The Han dynasty called them a menace, a shadow army appearing from the north, their horses faster than the wind. By 200 BCE, the Xiongnu Confederation had grown so strong that Emperor Gaozu of Han was forced into the humiliating Heikin Treaty, marrying a Han princess to Modu and sending yearly tribute. The steppe had spoken, and China listened. Yet the Xiongnu were never a single people. Ancient DNA extracted from Egyin Gol necropolis and Gol Mod burial sites reveals a society divided by blood and status. The elites, buried with gold ornaments, iron stirrups, and prized horse gear, were mostly East Eurasian, guarding their bloodlines like treasure. But the satellite burials, the low-status graves scattered around them, tell another story. They are genetically diverse, reaching west toward the Pontic-Caspian steppe and south toward the Gobi frontier. These were captives, vassals, and adopted families, absorbed into the Xiongnu orbit but never fully equal. Even in death, hierarchy was carved into their bones. Isotopic studies show that elites feasted on rich diets of mutton and dairy, while commoners survived on millet and wild grains. Some skeletons bear sword cuts and arrow wounds, silent witnesses to the brutal life of a frontier empire. The Han dynasty fought back fiercely. In 127 BCE, General Wei Qing struck the Xiongnu heartland. By 119 BCE, Huo Chubing, the wolf slayer, rode deep into the Gobi during the Battle of Mobei, defeating Xiongnu forces and driving them north. But the empire endured for nearly 2 more centuries, leaving its blood in every corner of the steppe. And within this empire of strangers, one family guarded a secret that would journey across deserts and mountains until it surfaced in the heart of Europe. That secret is finally being uncovered. In 2025, a groundbreaking PNAS genetic study shattered an age-old mystery, linking the elite bloodlines of the Xiongnu to the Huns of 5th century Europe. For centuries, historians debated whether Attila's Huns were descendants of the Xiongnu or simply an echo. Now the DNA speaks louder than legend. Deep within elite Xiongnu burials in Mongolia, scientists found genetic markers, rare Y chromosome signatures, and unique autosomal patterns. Those same signatures appear centuries later in burials from the Carpathian Basin, where Attila's warriors once thundered across the plains of Hungary. It wasn't a mass migration. There was no great wave of people sweeping west. This was a story of elite bloodlines, drifting like shadows across Eurasia, marrying into local tribes, rising to power, and leaving behind a hidden genetic trail. Imagine a girl born on the Mongolian steppe in 150 BCE. She grows up among the winds and horse herds under the rule of the Xiongnu Chanyu. Her descendants, through centuries of alliances and journeys, eventually ride with Attila the Hun 500 years later as the Western Roman Empire trembles. The blood of the Amur steppe had reached the heart of Europe. Archaeologists now map this journey like a ghostly migration, from the Orkhon Valley across Kazakhstan to the Pontic steppe and finally to the Danube. No armies needed to bring the genes west, only families, marriages, and the relentless pull of opportunity on the open steppe. And yet, this connection between Mongolia and Europe carries a darker truth, because no matter how far the blood of the Xiongnu traveled, it would never have sparked an empire without nature's permission. For the rise of the next great steppe empire would depend not on blood or steel or conquest, but in the sky itself. And the moment the heavens chose one man, that man was Temujin, the boy who would become Genghis Khan, and the sky chose him in a way no one could have predicted. In the 1280s, the Mongolian steppe was choking under drought. Rivers shrank, pastures withered, and the nomadic clans, fractured and desperate, turned on each other. These were the dark years of civil war, when tribes like the Tatars, Merkits, and Naimans fought for survival. Temujin rose in this chaos, a young warrior carving alliances with blood and fear. But even he could not command the land itself. Then the heavens shifted. Tree ring studies from central Mongolia, silent witnesses of the past 11 centuries, tell a story that no chronicle recorded. Around 1211 CE, the steppe entered a period of unprecedented rainfall. For 15 straight years, rivers swelled, grasslands exploded into green, and the world of the horse nomads transformed. This rare wet era, now called the Mongol pluvial, was unlike anything in over 1,100 years. Nature itself had armed Genghis Khan. Horses bred faster than ever, herds multiplied, feeding his warriors, supplying milk, meat, leather, and the lifeblood of his empire. Each rider could now command 5, 10, even 20 mounts, rotating fresh horses in battle, while sedentary kingdoms struggled to match the steppe's sudden power. Under this emerald sky, Temujin's fate ignited. By 1206, he was crowned Chinggis Khan at the Great Kurultai, uniting the steppe under the eternal blue sky. Within a few short years, his armies surged beyond Mongolia, tearing through the Jin dynasty in northern China, then across Central Asia, leaving shattered kingdoms in their wake. The rains had given him a weapon no enemy could see, and no empire could match. Because with nature on his side, Genghis Khan would not just conquer lands. He would rewrite human DNA. And he did. Not through accident, but through a pattern etched into the Y chromosomes of men across Eurasia. A genetic legacy so vast, it defies imagination. In 2003, a team of geneticists studying populations from the Amur River to the Caspian Sea discovered something astonishing. Nearly 0.5% of the entire world's male population, around 16 million men, share a nearly identical Y chromosome. This lineage, a star, cluster, radiates outward from Mongolia and dates precisely to the 13th century, the age of the Mongol Empire. Science was confirming what legend had whispered. The blood of Genghis Khan still flows through millions. Historical sources add chilling clarity. In 1260, the Persian historian Ata Malik Juvaini claimed that 20,000 male descendants of Genghis Khan were already alive, barely a generation after his death. His eldest son, Jochi, reportedly fathered 40 sons, each establishing new branches of the Borjigin clan. Through marriage alliances, conquests, and the privilege of victory, the sons and grandsons of Genghis Khan seeded their bloodline from China to Persia, from the Silk Road oases to the steppes of Kazakhstan. This was not a chance. It was power crystallized in biology. When cities fell, the Mongols absorbed their women into the imperial lineage, while many local male lines were extinguished. Generation after generation, the empire's Y chromosome, C2b1a3a, C-M217, spread like wildfire, leaving a genetic footprint unmatched by any other historical figure. Even today, villages in Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and northern China hold high concentrations of this lineage, living echoes of a man who died nearly 800 years ago. And yet, for all its scale, this story carries a haunting question. The golden lineage has long been celebrated as the direct blood of Genghis Khan. But new discoveries from royal burials suggest something unsettling, because in the tombs of the steppe, some of the most powerful Mongol nobles carried a different paternal signature, a lineage that does not match the famed star cluster. So, what if the legacy we call Genghis Khan's was never his at all? To chase that answer, we journey to the windswept hills of Tavan Tolgoi, a remote site in the Orkhon Valley, the sacred heart of Mongol history. Here, the earth has preserved a story that no chronicle dared to tell: the bones of the golden lineage. They belong to the rulers and kin of the Mongol Empire, the family that once reshaped the world. Excavations have revealed 6 elite burials from the 12th to 13th century CE, each a time capsule of the steppe aristocracy. Grave 1 held a high-ranking woman adorned with gold falcon rings, the unmistakable symbol of the Kiat Borjigin clan, the dynasty of Genghis Khan himself. Grave 5 contained a noble woman wearing a golden crown, wrapped in silk robes, her hand resting on a bronze mirror, a ritual treasure linking her to both Chinese craftsmanship and steppe tradition. Grave 6 held a male aristocrat buried with his horse, his jade belt buckle gleaming even after 8 centuries, a mark of prestige and mobility in life and in death. Then came the shock that shook the foundation of the Mongol origin story. DNA analysis of these royal burials, conducted with cutting-edge aDNA sequencing techniques, revealed a genetic contradiction. Several of these elite male skeletons carried the Western Eurasian R1BY chromosome, not the C-M217 star cluster long attributed to Genghis Khan's male line. This startling discovery, published in recent archaeogenetic studies, raises a haunting question. Were some of the Mongol aristocracy descended from adopted or allied bloodlines, while the true line of Genghis Khan was elsewhere, or perhaps already diluted by history? The women buried here deepen the mystery. Their mtDNA lineages show a mix of East Eurasian and occasional West Eurasian origins, echoing the cosmopolitan reality of the Mongol world, where marriage alliances link the steppe to the Silk Road, Persia, and beyond. Every artifact and bone whispers the same truth. The golden lineage was never simple. It was a mosaic of power, diplomacy, and survival. And its genetic story challenges the myth of an unbroken bloodline. If even the royal tombs hold secrets that defy the chronicles, then to truly understand the Mongols, we must see the steppe as it was, not a void between empires, but the engine of Eurasian history. For over 2,000 years, the Eurasian steppe was not an empty frontier. It was the beating heart of continental history. From 209 BCE, when Modu Chanyu forged the Xiongnu Confederation, the grasslands became a launch pad for empires that could topple dynasties thousands of miles away. Chinese chronicles feared them, calling them wolves of the north, as they raided the Han dynasty and forced emperors into the humiliating Heian treaties. Centuries later, echoes of this same bloodline thundered westward as the Huns, shaking the foundations of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century CE, while Attila's horsemen rode into legend. The steppe shaped its empires with climate, mobility, and blood. When the grasslands bloomed, as during the Mongol pluvial 1211 to 1225 CE, herds multiplied, horses thrived, and armies became unstoppable. When the rains failed, as in the late 14th century, the steppe fell silent, and the Mongol world fractured into memory. But science has revealed the steppe's hidden highway, a network of migration, marriage, and conquest that turned Eurasia into a living DNA corridor. Genetic studies trace a 2,000-year continuum of elite mobility. The Xiongnu mixed with distant Western lineages, the Huns carried their blood to the Carpathian Basin, and the Mongols left a Y chromosome legacy in 16 million men, from Hungary to Korea. Maternal DNA tells a story of captured brides, political marriages, and cultural fusion, while isotopic studies of ancient bones map the diet, movement, and hierarchy of nomadic life. The steppe was not a void. It was a circulatory system for civilization, connecting China, Persia, and Europe long before the Silk Road was drawn on any map. And still, the land keeps its secrets. Its winds remember hooves, its rivers remember blood, and its soil guards the bones of kings whose stories are only now being told through ancient DNA. Empires rise and fall, but blood remembers. If the blood of the steppe flows quietly through millions alive today, what other forgotten empires are waiting, hidden inside us, to be found? Next time, we follow the invisible DNA highways of the Silk Road.